Yeah, 2021 didn't have to try too hard to impress us,
Nope.
but it didn't even try at all.
Hail
It's like, that last guy was pretty cool. I think I'll do some of the things he did.
Yeah, and more. Let's just double down.
Why not?
You thought it couldn't get any worse. Here we are.
Hold my beer.
Woo.
Yeah.
But there are positive things like funny memes and
Hello, and welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Aaron Green.
And I am not Aaron Green today, apparently. Hey, Michael Gray here. I don't know how to make my voice go that low.
It sounds the same. I am Michael Gray, and that's Aaron Green. How are you, Aaron Green?
Thanks for the laugh, buddy. I appreciate it.
Curveballs. We need laughs right now, right?
We do, yes.
Everything's heavy and terrifying.
Well, and life always looks kind of the same when you're working from home and you have the same commute to work. Basically just walk out of my bedroom, pass by the coffee pot, and sit at my desk. That's my commute.
Is it October or February? I got lost. I have no idea when it is. It's kind of how it feels, right?
Yeah, there's like this void between like a 6-month span and you're not really sure where you are.
I don't know. Just every day's the same. It's like Groundhog Day. Just keep doing the same thing.
If I ever tried to impersonate you, I could never get that like gravelly kind of low voice thing going on.
Well, just get a cold and have like a bunch of crap in your throat, because I think that's what it sounds like. It sounds like I always sound like I'm kind of sick a little bit. Like, hey, how's it going? I don't feel very good.
Which sounds like a great plan in the middle of a pandemic. Mm-hmm. Let's go get sick, everyone.
Yeah. So just do that, and then you can impersonate me.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll work on that.
Yeah, I was gonna try to impersonate you, but I'm not gonna do that because
I got a funny glimpse into your life from your Facebook post. I think it was this morning. That it's shocking as a parent how often you play the game. Is that chocolate or is that poop?
Yeah, you play it a lot, to be honest.
I laughed so hard. And then, of course, the punchlines start coming to mind like, well, there is one surefire way to find out.
Yep. Well, it happened because last night I took a shower and I got out of the shower and I grabbed my towel. It's a white towel. And there's like two like kind of like brown spots on it. And I'm like,
Michael.
So
is this audience friendly to be sharing this?
Yes, it was not there before. It's not for me. I can tell you that.
Unless you were rating the Christmas chocolates and finishing those off, right?
But I just, with kids, you have this thought like, okay, what is this? It's one of two things. One is fine. The other is absolutely not fine. It's like there's no middle ground. And yeah, so, and then I'm standing there wet with no other towel. So it's like, okay, I guess I dry myself off, avoiding the chocolate and or poop section, and throw it in the wash. Welcome to parenthood.
Oh my gosh. And with 2 dogs in the house and a cat. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, you just never know. There's just,
so many possibilities.
So many. Yeah. Yep. It's fun.
Oh, that was a good laugh too. We need more laughter.
We do.
I do want to talk about humor and how that can be therapeutic and helpful and physiologically what happens when you laugh.
Absolutely.
I wish we could find an expert on that. If any of our listeners have an expert on humor and laughter, please send them our way.
Yeah, that would be fun to do, actually.
Because it really is the best medicine.
It is. Yeah. Yep.
That would be
fun. Sorry.
I'll share my meaning in the mundane this
We're-
week, and it has to do with laughter.
Okay. We're just doing planning, on the podcast for y'all.
Thanks for being a part of it, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for letting us brainstorm.
No, what we're really talking about today is some celebrity hacks, maybe fad diets, and health promotion publicity that you get from celebrities.
Yeah. And whether or not they're, good people to listen to when it comes to that. But before we get into that, can I say this? Something that I think Aaron and I are both excited about is we have an official Middleish Instagram page.
Woohoo!
So yeah. So we just started that just a few days ago. Well, it'll be a few weeks when this airs, I guess. But yeah, very recently. So Middleish_podcast on Instagram. We would love for you to give us a follow and interact with us and share the page with anybody who you think might enjoy it. So yeah, we'd love to connect with you on there.
Our hope with that is to, of course, announce the podcast and give you guys some little insight and some tidbits of the podcast, but then also, connect a little more with our audience and maybe provide some tips, some thoughts, resources. There's going to be a lot of stuff on there. So
yeah, and maybe like in Instagram stories, whenever I get to play it, we can all play chocolate or poop.
That would actually be funny.
Let's vote.
That would be funny. Let's vote. What do you think it is? That's a good one. Yeah. I think we'd get high engagement with that one.
We might. we know what people really want.
I know. Well, the funny thing is there's no Middleish in the chocolate or poop game. Mm-mm. Like you said, it is one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if there is a middle ground, it's still poop. So yeah, if it's 95% chocolate and 5% poop, it's poop. That's all it is.
It's into that category.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Anyway, sorry, major sidetrack.
Okay, now that we've got that out, but
yeah. But I wanted to let people
know. Follow us on Instagram, please.
I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. Okay. Anyway.
Great.
Back to you, Aaron.
Well, I don't know where we should start with this one. And if I recall, this was something you had kind of thrown out when we were first brainstorming last spring. And so I don't know, do you remember that conversation and what kind of made you think we need to talk about what the celebrities are putting out there?
No. I don't.
You don't remember. Well, I'll tell you maybe why it grabbed my brain when I'm pretty sure you said it, but who knows, is it seems like our society as a whole really puts a lot of faith into what a celebrity says and into personal accounts and testimonials and case studies. And it's really been an interesting thing for me to experience as a practitioner that spent years learning the foundation of science and the human body and physiology and health and exercise and nutrition and all of this stuff, to then hear someone say, well, I just read on this celebrity's website that they do this diet. And we'll get into an example of what, quote, this diet might look like for a celebrity, but it's usually really convoluted, probably pretty complicated and not grounded in science.
And usually really unhealthy.
Yeah. Yet people just totally buy into it. And it seems like there's always a new kind of movement that people are fascinated with celebrities, whether they be, actors or singers or athletes or, even some of our famous CEOs in the country that are in big tech. So we'll talk about some of those, but I think that's part of the reason I became fascinated. I usually just tune out what celebrities are doing and saying because I'm like, I don't need to, hear or read any of that garbage. Right. But at the same time, if it comes across my radar, I am curious, okay, what's the fad? I mean, I think you do need to kind of stay up on some of that stuff just so if someone brings it up, you can help, maybe pick that apart with them from a scientific standpoint and really talk about the evidence supporting or refuting some of those claims.
Yeah. Well, I think, just with the introduction of social media influencers, like if you have someone who's a quote unquote influencer, they may have a couple 100,000 followers. That's a lot. That's a big voice. But you look at celebrities like professional athletes, movie stars, millions of followers. So their potential to spread a message is enormous. And kind of like you said, for some reason, if someone has a certain level of fame, we just assume that they're more trustworthy, that we should listen to them more. That just it's a weird thing that when someone has a certain level of notoriety or fame, it's just like, okay, well, I'll just trust what they have to say because I don't know what the psychological reasons are behind there. But I think it's important before we get into, we're going to get into some specific celebrities and the way they, things that they perpetuated and promoted and that kind of stuff. But I just want to say this off the top, that having some sort of notoriety or fame means nothing, right? It doesn't indicate you have any kind of any expertise or knowledge or any data based in any kind of science when it comes to exercise and nutrition. And in fact, I think that if anything, we should be extra wary of them because, especially like actresses and actors, because they live and work and just their whole environment is all about the look, right?
Yes.
And I mean, we've probably all heard it said a whole bunch, an actress or an actor who talks about like, I had to lose, 30 pounds just to get this role. And it doesn't matter how they feel, mentally or emotionally or even physically. As long as you look the way we want you to look, you're good. And so if that's the only marker for a lot of these diets, why are we listening to them at all? Because there's nothing else taken into account. And then on top of that, I mean, we're everyday people who have jobs and families. And, we are not people who get paid millions of dollars to, just to look a certain way and have, 6 months and a whole bunch of money and, personal trainers with us, several days or several hours a day and chefs cooking us very specific food. Like we're not that. And so
housekeepers, nannies,
right.
Part of your job is going to the gym and training for this role or this, concert
exactly.
or whatever.
And so taking those things into account, it's just like, I think that's not to say that any celebrity doesn't have, sound advice or anything like that. But I think all of them, we need to take just with a massive grain of salt of, okay, I am not that. And if I am not that, how well is that going to apply? And even if I was that, this still may not be a very good idea. So that's just that's my general disclaimer.
Yeah, you hit on all of the highlights that I was thinking as well. Just the focus on physical appearance, the resources and lifestyle that many celebrities enjoy. Or maybe even it's required of them. There's some famous uh clauses in history in celebrities' contracts about how they have to manage their weight or, being put on super restrictive diet regimens. I think I even read something about Judy Garland back in the day was suggested to chain smoke all day to suppress her appetite. So that was like something that a company had put in her contract or something. So, I mean, these are,
heard that.
Oh man, like I think of those, those are just a few of the things that are brought to our attention as the general public. So you just don't know what is going on behind the scenes. And then something else that I always remind myself whenever I get into that cycle of comparing myself to another human, and I find that it's an unhealthy manner, I just remind myself, I am not them. They are not me. So really just getting back in touch with my own individuality and understanding that what works for one person is may or may not work for me. And you have to be honest about your lifestyle and how that sets you up.
Right. And then I think even just to ask yourself, is it actually working for them?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we
Mm.
have a few celebrity examples to go through. And excuse me, I think uh, maybe one of the places I want to start is with Tom Brady,
Okay, let's do it.
because I think this is a little bit unique in that Tom Brady arguably is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Maybe statistically, he is. And, there's all this hype right now because he and Drew Brees are the two oldest quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're going to, have a showdown. This will be released after that happens, but it's
Mhm.
coming this weekend. Um, but Tom Brady's job and his age in the context of his job requires him to eke out that top fraction of a percent of his performance. So whenever I hear this, Tom Brady's doing that, Tom Brady's diet, blah, 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 I'm sort of thinking to myself, well, if he is really trying to eke out the very last few years of his career, and he wants to maximize every last bit of his performance he can, then it would probably make sense for a person like that to go to a more extreme method and a very
Mhm.
rigid method of, just taking the best care of his body that he knows how. And his diet, I guess he actually has a method, the
Yeah, I didn't know
TB12.
that.
I didn't
TB12.
either. I didn't either.
What does
This
the
was something
12 stand for?
I don't know. I'm probably really bad because I don't know that. It might have been his number was that his number at
I
New England?
don't know. I'm
I
gonna
don't
look
know.
that up real quick.
Anybody who's a football fan that's listening to this, maybe correct me on this, but
Yeah,
I
number
remember,
12 as the number.
oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, makes
Huh.
sense.
Okay.
So when I worked with the Bronco football players several years ago, there was a quarterback uh, that was obsessed with whatever Tom Brady was doing. I'm going to do that thing. And the TB12 method is really focused mostly on whole, minimally processed foods, lower acidity foods, which the evidence tells us that your body actually is a very tight regulator on acidity, alkalinity. And so
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things
mm,
lately.
it's really bizarre to me that
Mhm.
that people think that you can severely
Can't change
shift
that
your, yeah, that's something that I mean,
because
just
that's how
like,
you die.
yeah, that's, that's that's something that your body is really smart and good at regulating, and it's very
Yeah.
tightly regulated.
Yeah.
So and also like foods that reduce inflammation is part of it. So really focusing on what I read about the diet was 80% fruits and veggies, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes. Sounds really good.
Hmm.
20% from grass-fed, organic, antibiotic, and hormone-free lean meats and wild-caught fish and seafood. Okay,
All right.
really good protein sources, but also a very strong component of, I would say, maybe elitism and some
Hmm.
access to that kind of food.
Yeah.
And so just, careful with that. And just to say that a lot of people hear those things and they're like, oh yeah, of course I want antibiotic free food. Well, guess what? It's already antibiotic free
Hmm.
because that is how our food supply works.
Hmm.
Food is not allowed to be processed with antibiotics in it.
Yeah.
It's tested. And of course, I could probably get raked across the coals for saying that from some people, but I will say that I
Yeah.
really do trust in our you know our food supply system. And I have spoken with, farmers, with
Hmm.
the regulators, with the legislators, with, everyone that goes in that
Hmm.
realm, the scientists that test the food. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, so he has these very kind of, very plant heavy and then with protein, um, not eliminating any single food group, which is really favorable, I would say.
Hmm.
Some of the nuanced things that I contend with his eating plan are um, drinking a lot of water, but avoid drinking water with your meals,
What's that
which is,
about?
I don't really know. It probably has to do with like inflammation or acidity
Hmm.
myths, maybe. But my thought is everything I know about digestion is water actually aids in digestion. And so if you're eating, especially like a high fiber diet like that, that's like whole foods, a lot of plant-based nutrition, I would actually encourage people to drink drink some water along those meals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
You don't want dry bulk.
yeah, like
That
a
equals
bowl of
pain.
a bowl of like lentils with bulgur wheat and no fluid to wash it down would probably be
Nope.
like a brick in
Mhm.
your stomach. Um, but also excludes nightshades, which are like tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, most oils, soy, GMO or gluten containing foods, artificial sweeteners, trans fats, caffeine, MSG, alcohol, and iodized salt. Now, you tell me if this college player that I worked with years ago would be able to follow this diet.
Right.
And furthermore, when I would talk with him about it, he would be like, well, I want to drink alkaline water. So he'd want to go and buy this really expensive alkaline water, but I could hardly convince him to get a new vegetable in his diet or to eat something like quinoa or a new, whole grain
Right.
option that was unfamiliar. And so again, this was my, my little case study, an
Hmm.
introduction into the Tom Brady diet, where I'm like, okay, if it works for Tom Brady, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And let's just look at some of the very like low hanging fruit in your eating pattern and your overall health
Right.
pattern and see if maybe adopting a few of those very simple changes that aren't so extreme could actually
Right.
help with your performance.
Right. Well, and it's just the whole thought of that we feel like correlation equals causation, right? So
Yeah.
like he's doing these things and therefore that's why he's a great quarterback. And it's like
Right.
he may be a great quarterback in spite of these things. Or maybe he could be an even better quarterback following some different protocols. Like we don't know this, but we just kind of assume that okay, certain person does these things and so that's why they have certain outcomes. It's like, well, we don't know that. I mean, that's a lot of rules, that's a lot of rigidity. And so do they all contribute equally to this, or some 20% contribution and some 3%? I mean, it's too much to flesh out, and it's too much to really put any kind of importance on. And again, it's just we don't know that these things directly contribute to anything, you know?
Right.
So yeah.
And maybe he believes they do, and
Hmm.
that's part of the magic. I mean, there
Sure.
is a very strong body of evidence for the placebo effect.
Hmm.
So if you believe it's going to work for you, then it might be worth, something as innocent as spending an extra $300 a month on alkaline water. I mean, I
Hmm.
guess it hits your pocketbook pretty hard, but it's very unlikely to really truly impact your health. I mean, go for it if you believe in it, but
Yeah, I think it'd be quicker just to throw that money right in the toilet, and flush it, get rid of it all in one fell swoop.
yep. Yep. Along with that mystery chocolate
Chocolate or
poop
poop. We need like a little
towel on the floor.
jingle. We need like a jingle.
No,
Chocolate or poop.
I
Something like
don't think we do. You can put that together, Michael.
that. I just might.
And one more little tidbit that I found when I was reading about Tom Brady is one of the experts that was kind of reviewing his diet said that just making meals more monotonous can reduce caloric intake by 40%.
Gee,
So
you think?
as we're going through this, just keep that in mind, folks, that when you're doing something that removes flavor or some of your favorite foods or an entire food group or
Hmm.
requires you to eat the exact same thing like day in and day out, that in itself can just really make food disinteresting. And so you're not going to want to eat as much.
No, wait a minute. Here's what I know about people is that when they're doing something routine and boring, the longer they do it, the more they want to do it, right? Isn't that how that works? I mean, just the idea of like, of course it's going to reduce things like by 40% because you're tired of it. But like,
Yeah.
okay, so how much does it increase the chance that you're gonna say, screw this whole thing? Like, I'm done with this because it sucks, like by 1,000%.
Right. Give me a
It's just
cookie
like,
now.
yeah, it's a good statistic, but it's may not paint the whole picture, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not it's not reducing caloric intake in a positive way. Let's just
Mm-mm.
put it that way.
Yeah.
And not sustainable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Are we moving on from Tom Brady?
sure. Do you want me to review another one, or do you have one
Sure.
you want to talk about?
No, go for it.
Well, so you, I kind of snickered when you said, man, there are a lot of rules in the Tom Brady, the
Mhm.
TB12 method. Another celebrity that is in the news recently for weight loss is Adele. Love her music. I've always loved her. And I just have to say, from a um, just a societal attention to someone's size kind of standpoint, Adele has been pretty mum, I think, in the press from what I have seen and heard about her actual weight loss and the reasons for it. And so we don't know the whole story there. We don't know if she was, I remember reading or hearing something about she was living a very unhealthy lifestyle before the weight loss. So plenty of
Mhm.
alcohol, maybe some smoking, staying up late, not taking care of herself, not exercising, very depressed, all of these things that we know create an unhealthy human, and don't contribute to health. So that, set that aside from the weight loss. I think there's been so much attention to her change in size that people don't want the full story. They just want to know the diet method. Like, how did she do it? And oh, she looks so great now. So she followed the CERT Foods diet. CERT, SIRT, stands for sirtuins, which is a specific protein in the body that I don't recall learning about in any of
Mm.
my physiology classes. So it's either
I've never heard of
a
that.
new, it might be a new, physiological discovery, or it's something like so detailed and minute and possibly insignificant in the grand scheme of health that maybe it's something that just wasn't covered. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's something to call attention to real quick is that if a registered dietitian in her studying does not recall this thing, how much importance does it have? It's a fair question to
And it
ask.
and it could be my lousy memory. I don't know. but
I doubt it.
but I will say that I was reading about this and I was like, oh, maybe I should read a little more about sirtuins. But apparently, this diet helps to um, activate these little proteins that are believed to protect your cells from dying under stress and possibly regulate inflammation, aging, metabolism. And one of the quotes from the authors of this book for the CERT Foods diet says that it turns on your skinny gene,
Ew.
which that's a it's a whole nother realm of investigation, because there is a ton of research on our genome and how we are changing our genome as human beings. So anyway, that's another thing to investigate. But
I don't like that quote at all.
what don't you like about it, Michael?
I don't know. There's just so much emphasis on size and what do they even call it? There's a like has a term. I can't think of what it is, but just there's like an elitism to being a certain size. And what's that called? We've talked about it before. I don't know, but just the idea that's quote unquote skinny is better and healthier and the thing you should chase. And if I
Like
don't
the
know,
diet culture kind of
yeah,
mentality?
thin
Something
privilege.
else?
That's what I'm thinking of. Thin
Oh, sure.
privilege.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but just I don't know. Just the idea that anyway. All right, I'm gonna get into the
Nope,
whole
it's
thing.
I could tell just by watching your face. For those of you who
Yeah,
are listening and not
don't
watching
care for it.
YouTube, Michael was like, ugh,
But
gag
you know,
me.
I guess a lot of this, like I think of like in terms of like my daughters and just the BS that they're going to have to wade through and that they're
Sure.
just going to get preached to. And just the idea of them at some point in their life being told that they need to turn on their skinny gene as if their bodies are not exactly the way they should be. And as if there's something not working correctly inside of them. And it just pisses me off. Sorry.
Right. Right.
Super
Nope.
interruptive. Anyway,
I'm right there. I'm right there with you.
yeah.
And this is one of the things I think that helps these diets catch fire is people read something like that, and number
Mhm.
one, there we have this drive for thinness in our society that kind of takes over for people. It's not a drive for health. They just want to, a lot of people want to just look thinner or be thinner. Now, let me just clarify, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be thinner if that is something that is important to your health
Right.
and you've identified that as something that you want to work on. I do think that there needs to be some eating competence and
Mhm.
emotional health and some, security in those realms before you embark on such a
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so cert foods. Okay, so it's two phases. The one phase is, I mean, now you're ready for some rules, right?
Buckle
So
up.
the first phase is 1 week at 1,000 calories a day
Jeez.
for 3 days with three cert food green juices a day, plus a meal that's high in cert foods. And in case you're wondering what cert foods are, here's a few examples: green tea, apples, citrus fruits, turmeric, kale, blueberries, dark chocolate, capers, red wine, extra virgin olive oil, parsley. So these cert food green drinks, these juices that you make, they have to be juices. They can't just be like a smoothie you throw in a blender. So you got to buy a juicer. And I've only had a couple experiences with juicers, but in my experience, they're pretty cumbersome and messy to deal with. So you got to really love juicing.
Sure.
It's not really for me. You remove a ton of the fiber when you're
Hmm.
juicing something, although you do concentrate down a lot of those nutrients. So that's, trade off. But think about this: 1,000 calories a day, you guys.
I'm pretty
That's like
sure my 4-year-old meets more than a
I was
thousand
going to
calories,
say that's like a
way more.
preschooler. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
preschooler would probably not grow well if they were, depending on the size.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so you do that for 3 days. And you only get one meal that again is rich in cert foods. And I just listed those out. And I had a hard time. I mean, some of the websites I read talked about protein options on the cert food diet, but then others like avoided them altogether. And so I really had a hard time understanding where this person is going to get their protein. So you have these three drinks and a meal do that for 3 days. And then for days 4 through 7, you get to bump up to 1,500 calories with only two juices a day, but then two cert food meals. So then there's the maintenance phase. So this is phase 2. Okay. So are you following, friend?
Oh yeah, I'm sure everyone's following real well.
I know. Okay, wake up,
Jeez.
audience.
No, not that
I'm
it's
still
boring.
going.
It's just like, gosh, it's so like complicated. And then on every third Tuesday when there's a full moon, yeah.
So then the maintenance phase is 14 days of quote steady weight loss, whatever that means. So I didn't find specifics on that. I heard that the long term is having three cert food meals a day plus one green juice. Now that long term, I was like, well, okay, why don't we just start people there? Like three balanced meals a day plus a green juice and see where that gets you and see how it's satisfied. But also with how about some protein
Mhm.
and making sure that you also pay attention to what your body's telling you during all of this. Because
Right.
to me, I mean, I look at that 1,000 calories a day and I'm just like, whoa, I know that there's some really exciting research for some people on very low calorie diets. Um, I'm not super thrilled with them because I think that the psychological and physical consequences probably outweigh many of the benefits. Um, so so that's the cert foods diet.
Whew, I need a
And
nap.
might I just add, this was the best part, and this is one of the things that I get really irritated with our diet culture. I'm like reading these articles and I'm trying to make sense of this super complicated dietary. I
Mhm.
think the formulaic nature of these diets is part of what people buy into because they're like, oh, if it's that specific, there has to be a reason for it, right?
Right.
And so then it sort of fluffs up some of the I don't know, the virtues of this
Mhm.
diet, or maybe it's reputation and people will buy into it more if it's super, rigid.
Sure.
But I'm reading through this website, I'm trying to make sense of this diet, and there's a little pop-up window in the corner of my computer that is playing this ad for a baking this like custard tart. It is certainly not a cert food tart. I will give you that.
That's funny.
And it is, I'm not even kidding. I almost like grabbed my phone and tried to like screen record it or something because it's like this slow motion, like spreading the custard in this beautiful pastry. And then it's like folding up these little fruit flowers and placing them in the custard. I mean, this video took like 3 minutes to go. It wasn't just a pop-up ad and then it's gone. And I'm watching this and I'm like, look, if I'm the person that's trying to research this new convoluted diet, yet I have this custard staring me in the face that's just beautiful, sexy, slow motion, like you know, cut a slice and lift it out of the whatever. I just was like, this is so this experience I'm having right now is why our diet culture is so effed. It's like, here you can drink these green drinks, but don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain over here. It's like,
hey, we got to make a buck somehow, right? Selling ads. Oh, geez, that's funny.
So some of the meal examples did include like chicken and turkey and stuff, but I really didn't find a lot of examples that had enough protein in this diet. So, I mean, bottom line, totally don't recommend it, you guys. But this is not to mention, I mean, again, it's Adele. Like she's probably got trainers and personal chefs and doesn't have to really think about this. She has somebody that can go make her the green drinks, whatever.
Right.
And she's possibly just really focused on a look too. You don't know the whole story.
Right. Someone losing weight does not mean a healthier person by any means. Let's do Kim Kardashian. Speaking of things I don't care.
Are you ready for this to be over?
No, it's good. I think it's really important that we do this. It's all the stuff that I think we both just despise, and a lot of it.
Very cringy.
Yeah. So, okay, Kim Kardashian. If you don't know who she is, I don't know what to tell you.
Don't bother.
Yeah. I am jealous of you. So, as of the publication of this article, which who knows, I think probably a lot of celebrities are doing different things all the time, right? But she was following the Atkins 40 diet, so which is kind of the basis of the Atkins diet, but limiting carbs to 40 grams per day, which is pretty low. Okay. So this diet focuses on limiting sugars and carbs. Like I said, she gets 40 per day, 40 net carbs per day, somewhere in the low to mid hundreds of grams of protein, which is good. So it's kind of a high protein, low carb kind of diet. And then a few servings of fat per day. So kind of the basis of the Atkins 40 diet is the things that are allowed are vegetables, especially colorful ones. Okay, that's good. Proteins, including meat, fish, poultry, plant-based proteins. Healthy fats, including olive oil, avocados, nuts. Dairy, like Greek yogurt, hard and soft cheeses, and then a variety of fruits. This diet tends to limit, or you're supposed to limit, white flour, sugar, and then most common carbs, which would be like, breads, tortillas, chips, crackers, all that kind of stuff. So I think, the tricky part about diets like this is that there are some really good things about it, right? Like emphasizing vegetables and protein and healthy fats and fruits. Like, yeah, we all need more of that. Like, this is a great thing. And so it seems really appealing. It seems like, man, this is something I can get on board with, because there are some really good recommendations from that. But where things fall apart pretty quickly is that exclusion of an entire food group and this demonization of carbs, right? Like 40 carbs is not much. Like you're going to get through 40 carbs real quick. Even just with fruit and vegetables, like,
right.
You're going to get there real fast. If you have, half a sandwich or something, I mean, geez, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
no way.
Yeah. So it's incredibly low. And it just perpetuates this whole just movement that unfortunately we've been in forever, it seems like, of just carbs are the enemy, carbs the devil, carbs are the reason that you're fat, insulin and blood sugar, and all this just half cocked science, that just really demonizes an entire food group that, one, a lot, I mean, grains and stuff, they have great benefits for your health and your body, and then two, all the other stuff that is just enjoyable, like you just remove all the fun,
Right.
like happy birthday, here's your bowl of carrots.
Carrots have good carbs in them, though. I'd say here's your bowl of spinach
Okay, there we go. Yeah, there
or
we go.
something.
Yeah,
Something super.
because carrots are
You
probably too
you
high in
can't even
carbs.
have carrots in your birthday.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah. So it just, I think a lot of these diets, they can trip you up because they really do seem like
Mhm.
a lot of solid recommendations, because they are. But then there's this dark side to it of, yeah, do this and do this and this, but don't you dare do this.
Right.
Because if you do
Well,
this, yeah.
and then what does happen on a birthday when you do want to, have a piece of cake or something? Or what does happen when something changes in your life, or you just plain get tired of this
Mm-hmm.
way of eating and you decide that I miss having an actual taco with a tortilla
Mm-hmm.
involved or something. So I think that's the other piece of these diets is what happens after. What
Yep.
happens in the long term.
Yeah.
It's no secret that most of these diets work in the short term
Mm-hmm.
for weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
possibly depending on the diet for other health benefits. For example, US News and World Report always puts out best diets of the year review. And DASH diet, Mediterranean diet, flexitarian diet are always toward the top.
Mm-hmm.
And these are diets that include all food groups. They focus on whole, unprocessed foods most of the time. They have specific guidance on, how to kind of build out your meals, but they allow for enough flexibility that you can actually live with the diet
Mm-hmm.
versus something that's more like Atkins. I mean, I think a very small number of our, you know, everyday people can actually follow something like this
Right.
for their lives
Right.
and enjoy it.
Well, and then the trouble is, I mean, so 40 grams of carbs is really low. 60 grams of carbs is still really low.
Yeah.
But if you're following this diet and you just, wow, just really go hog wild and have a whole 60 grams of carbs in a day, which is still nothing, well, now, you're just a piece of crap who can't do this. You know what I mean? And here you go, you failed again. I mean, it's bananas. And
Right.
it sets people up to just live in that cycle that just over and over and over again of just like, I'm not cut out for this. I guess maybe I'm just not meant to be a healthy person, and it's just a nasty, nasty cycle. And diets like this just perpetuate that.
So there have been a couple celebrities that have seen beyond this nasty cycle or
Mm-hmm.
gotten into the grips of a very rigid diet or really striving for thinness, and then they realize that this is not a healthy thing for me. And two of those celebrities that I found are Beyonce and Taylor Swift. So Beyonce, I watched her documentary Homecoming, which was about her comeback to perform at Coachella after she had her twins back in, I think the documentary was filmed in 2019. And it was well documented that she has gone through a number of different diets and cleanses and various methods of whittling herself down. And she has said before that I'm not naturally skinny. Like when she was in her early 20s, she would have like cucumbers and tomatoes for lunch because, quote, I'm not naturally skinny. So again, this kind of pattern and history of her trying to form her body into something that it is not
Right.
naturally supposed to look like.
Right.
Um, so in her documentary, she says that she's eating this special diet, and there's this voiceover where she's saying no bread, no carbs, no dairy, no meat, no sugar, no fish, no alcohol, and I'm hungry. and she's eating an apple as in the film as she's saying this, and I'm like, no carbs, no sugar. Wait a minute, did somebody tell her that an apple has carbs and sugar in
And
it?
sugar. Yeah.
But the fact that she's hungry. And then I found this quote, and it goes through like her whole transformation and how dedicated she was. This quote was at the very end of her documentary, and she said, I have children, I have a husband, I have to take care of my body. I definitely pushed myself further than I knew I could. And I learned a very valuable lesson. I will never, never push myself that far again.
Mm.
So that paired with her, you know, understanding that I'm hungry, I'm on the super restrictive diet, and she's got these baby twins, and so of course my brain is like, you're not able to breastfeed and your body
Right.
is not healing well after birth, after like growing two babies inside of
Mhm.
you. There's a lot of things there, and it sounds like maybe she has realized that this super rigid and restrictive regimen on top of the training and the dancing and doing like a 2-hour concert has to be just an athletic feat that I
Right.
will never understand. So it truly is training.
Yeah.
So that was one that gives me a little bit of hope that maybe not all of these celebrities get roped into this way of thinking. The other one, Taylor Swift, her documentary, gosh, I can't, I'll have to look up the name of it because I can't remember. It's really good. Um, she talks about how she famously got so thin back in what was it, like the early 2010 to 2012, 13 era, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
She was becoming this womanly body instead of the tiny little teenage body that she had when she first became pregnant, or sorry, first became famous. And she started realizing she wanted to continue being that, like, I have to fit this persona that I became famous looking this way. And so
Mhm.
she started really engaging in these restrictive behaviors. And she openly talks about this in her documentary and how she realized how unhealthy it was for her. And she had physical and emotional ramifications, and just realized like I have to, and some of it was also her just overall maturity coming into herself and realizing that like I need to, I'm not the same Taylor Swift that everybody thought I was
Right.
when I was, this young teen, and now I'm a
Yeah.
woman and I need to also embrace my womanhood, and look like a woman too. And so she said that she does still have those, she I would say empowered herself to actually take care of her body in a natural way, eating and, not restricting food anymore and using that as a way to kind of fit into a box. And she said whenever her brain kind of goes back to that, oh, maybe I should try this, look a certain way, or maybe,
Mhm.
I'm getting a little bit big. And she would kind of have those glimpses. She'd remind herself, nope, we've been down that road. We know where it leads and we're not going there again. So really that I love watching that scene because her self-talk and her just loving herself. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is
Right.
that everything we've talked about with body positivity, self-love, those things, that you are your own advocate and best friend, and you have to, really embrace that to be able to talk yourself out of some of these crazy fad diets and fitting into, a
Right.
societal box.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think anytime those kind of messages can be told or spread from someone who has a big megaphone, like Taylor Swift, like Beyonce, man, it warms my heart. You know what I mean? Really, it's just
I
like,
know.
oh, thank God, there's someone out there with just this really loud voice who's telling people, you know, you don't need to do that. Like that's just not. Let's stop, and let's stop trying to find our value and worth in our size or shape or whatever, our weight, and let's just be ourselves and realize that there's a lot of beauty in our diversity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that
Her
a whole
her
lot.
her documentary was called Miss Americana. So
That
highly
was
recommend it.
Taylor Swift's.
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Was the
I thought it was
Beyonce one
great.
good?
I thought it was really good. In fact, I watched it while I was on the trainer because I love like dance music and kind
Mm-hmm.
of, upbeat like club type music when I'm riding the
Mm-hmm.
trainer. And so it was really, and I have a background in dance. And so watching dancers is just like gets me kind of going and amped
Sure.
up. And so watching her, perform and sing, and it was a good one. Miss Americana, by the way, I've talked to a number of men that have watched that documentary and
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it too. So I think, some people are like closet Taylor Swift fans, even though they're dudes and they're,
Hey, we
they're
are
afraid
Taylor
to say
Swift
it.
fans in this house. I'm not afraid to admit it. I think she's
We
great.
are too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like her a lot. All right. Let's see. Who do we have?
We have a big glaring one that I don't even know where to begin.
Do I do that one? Or
We
you
we
want to do
might just
Jack
have to
Dorsey?
I was going to say we might just have to let's just throw it out there that Goop, and you said it the best actually. I
Goop.
think you can summarize everything about Goop in one phrase.
Okay, so let me back up for just a minute, and then I'll get to that. So, Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's company, I guess, right? And I think if anyone is at the forefront of like being a celebrity pushing health and nutrition stuff, it's probably Gwyneth Paltrow, right? Like she's really, I feel like she's more known for that than anything she's doing acting wise these days, right? Um, and she's been doing this for a while, quite a while. And she has a famous celebrity trainer, Tracy Anderson, who, in my opinion, is absolutely worthless as a trainer. Just, I mean, just perpetuates so much nonsense. And I mean, things like, women should never, ever, ever work out with more than 3-pound weights because you're just going to get huge and big and bulky. And then it's like, okay, so how do you pick up your child?
3 pounds?
3 pounds. Yep. 3 pounds.
Like 3 pounds in each hand or 3 pounds total? I
I
mean,
think
does
three
she?
in each, but still,
Oh my
that's
gosh. So
six.
yeah, six
Yeah.
pounds.
Yeah. Both my kids were like over 8 pounds. I mean, this is just ridiculous. There's just this idea. It's just scare tactics and it's just nonsense. And so I have had a sore place in my mind for Gwyneth Paltrow just for listening to that nonsense. For then this is a decade ago, and now she's just gotten deeper and deeper, deeper into health and wellness and quote unquote health and wellness. And so Aaron and I were talking about just her company Goop and all the stuff that she promotes and perpetuates and sells and makes a lot of money off of. And we were just like, man, there's just so much here. Like, what do we focus on? Where do we start? What do we talk about? And we just kind of realized maybe we just don't get into all that because there's just so much and most of it is nonsense. Like there's not even like a good portion of like, okay, but there's some really good, it's just like, oh my gosh, everything you read is just ridiculous. So this was my quote for the day, that if there was a cherry on top of Mount Bullshit, it would be Goop. That's kind of how I feel. Just, all the nonsense and health and wellness and fitness that just people perpetuate. And it's just all stacked up in this big pile. And there's Goop, the little shining star right on top.
I love it. I think that's the best summary. I don't know that we need to go any further.
I don't think we do.
Okay, I have to mention the candle.
Okay.
During my reading, as I was going through Michael's like painful thinking about this, I was looking for like the nutrition
It's the arrogance. It's the arrogance. That's what gets
the
me.
nutrition specific things that she had going on. And I came across one of the best sellers that apparently is sold out is a candle that she offered on her website that was scented like her vagina.
Mm-hmm. Because
let that one sink in. Because we all want our houses to smell like Gwyneth Paltrow's pink bits. I mean,
I've never heard pink bits before. And I like that a lot.
It's from Oh, we're gonna have to stop the podcast because Michael and I
Oh,
are actually
keep it
laughing
going.
to tears.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine like I mean, it's just the arrogance of like, well, surely people want this. Like that in and of itself is
It's
mind
sold
blowing.
out.
It's
Apparently.
mind blowing. Like even if they only made one, the fact that it's sold out is mind blowing, right? Like this is ridiculous. Then you pair it with like, what does it have anything to do with health or wellness?
Mhm.
No candles have anything to do with health or wellness. And then just the idea like of buying this and putting it in your home and burning it. It's like
Like somebody walks in and goes, "What's that smell?"
what's that smell? Oh, yeah. Like, oh, honey, we got company coming. Where's my Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina candle? I really want people to know who we are when they walk in.
Back in the olden days, you'd just like bake some cookies or something so your house smelled good. But now we have Gwyneth
Jeez.
to save us with her.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for inviting us over. What's that smell? What's that? We're going to leave now.
Yeah.
We don't want anything to do with you people ever again. You're monsters.
So if that isn't
Oh my
enough
gosh.
evidence to see that the scientific backing of goop is flimsy at best, and that a lot of
That's
this
being
is
very kind, Erin.
a lot of this is based in self-promotion, celebrity status. I mean,
Mhm.
pure marketing and going off of a name and a following. This is another example of why it can be so dangerous to just totally buy into what a celebrity is
Yeah.
pushing, because I guarantee you it's a moneymaker, and
Mhm.
and sometimes controversial things will grab. I mean, case in point, our society right now, that more controversy can really grab hold of people. And all of a sudden,
Yes, it
there is
can.
this super strong belief and following. And so,
Mhm.
this is, I think, what we see with Goop is that some of this stuff is so outlandish that people are like, well, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So, it has to be true.
Right. Yeah. And we are, I think, often, and I think we're seeing that right now a whole bunch, but we're attracted to extreme and and confusing and complicated. And I think a lot of that is people struggle so much to lose weight or eat healthy or stick to a plan that I think there's this buy-in. Well, it must be more complicated,
Mhm.
like it can't be this simple. So I just haven't figured out how complicated it is. And so when we find something that's really complicated and convoluted, it's like, oh, maybe that's it. Because
This
surely
is the
it can't be
key.
simple,
Yeah.
because
Sure.
if it's simple, it would have been easy for me to do. When it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with just the crazy way we try to make forward progress. But so I think there is often a lot of times when things look confusing, there's a sort of like, oh, maybe they've cracked the code, you
Right.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. And since, I mean, we can just wrap up with Jack Dorsey. Since
Okay.
you mentioned him, I had looked up his diet. CEO of Twitter. He is uh, basically among this collective of Silicon Valley CEOs who are doing more and more extreme things with their diet and health regimens. I mean, he takes ice baths and different things. And that's not to say that some of these practices, I mean, again, I really do have a pretty um, open mind when it comes
Mhm.
to, okay, give it a try. If it's not going to cause any harm,
Yeah.
give it a try and see how it works for you. Um, he is, however, really, I think this could be classified as an eating disorder, because he does a fasting regimen where he can eat one meal between 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Okay. And then he fasts all weekend. So one meal. I don't know how, I mean, I've eaten some pretty massive meals in my day, and it's really hard to get over much over 1,000 calories in one meal. I mean, you really have to work at it. And I guarantee you, based on the foods he's eating, he's not getting there, because it's some kind of lean protein with salad, spinach, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, something like that, and then mixed berries for dessert. So it's becoming this trend for, especially for these high-powered CEOs, to just really control and get into this hyper self-restriction, self-monitoring kind of, they're into biohacking. So to me, biohacking is like trying to force your body to do something like a robot. Like how my body has a tendency to, adapt to certain things or have physiological or signals. I'm going to biohack my way out of being a human, is what I hear when I see that. And I could be just painting with a really broad brush, because there might be some other, maybe useful hacks. But in my experience, when I read about these trends in biohacking, I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't sound healthy at all, physically or emotionally.
Nope. I completely agree. And I think there's, when someone, so Jack Dorsey is, I don't know if you said this, but he's the CEO of Twitter. So someone like that is probably pretty driven, right? Like, there's probably a real need to be insanely productive. And I think sometimes I've wondered, this is a speculation, so just take it as that. But when you see like these Silicon Valley people and the CEOs who buy into like intermittent fasting or one meal a day, sometimes I wonder, is it really serving you, or is it just, it's one less thing for you to have to worry about? So you can just dive into your obsession and your company and producing and growing and, that kind of stuff. Because I think there's an element of that. It's probably nice to not have to be like, okay, let me stop and eat lunch. It's nope, just produce. And so I've wondered that before, if there's just an element of that's the attraction that I don't have to stop my productivity or being in the zone or whatever. And I just worry about that once the workday is done.
Yep. I think you're right on. And there's an element of control in that, right? So like really hyper management of your life in a way that allows you to, again, like you said, obsess over the thing you want to obsess over. And that's not to say, I mean, history has shown us that there are tons of scientists, inventors, artists, people that really, they don't know how else to live. They're in that extreme space. What I worry about is Jack Dorsey is an adult. He can figure out what he wants to do with his life and his body. I think it's very detrimental to spread any of those messages like this is what other people can do to get to where he is or to be as productive as he is.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Completely agree.
Okay. Wow.
Right.
I feel like I need to go eat a pizza after saying all that.
I'm not going to lie. Pizza sounds really good.
Something really nice and carby, I think.
Or like a burger and fries. That sounds delicious.
So we've laughed a lot today, and I mentioned humor earlier. So my meaning in the mundane is I think we can all agree that true, deep joy and laughter has probably been in short supply for a lot of us lately. And I think the last time I truly I laugh I'm still watching The Office and, I have some things that make me laugh or smile throughout the day, but like that true, like uncontrollable bubble of laughter that you're almost in tears because it's so funny. And then you're feeding off of the person in the room with you that's also laughing so hard because their face is just contorted and laughing. That happened with Matt and I last night when we were watching. I mean, first of all, we were watching Chris Rock was on Colbert. And I really like his material and I like the way he says things. And he's
one of the best.
Oh my gosh, we were laughing.
He's a fantastic comedian.
So hard. And then I'll have to send this to you. Matt found a YouTube video on, I can't remember what the channel is, but it's something like when people try something for the first time. So it was all of these people from Ireland who tried bourbon for these different types of bourbon for the first time. And it is hysterical. They're all like closet comedians. And I I was listening to this kind of from the other room, and Matt's laughing, and I come out, and he's laughing so hard he can't speak, and he's having to pause the video so he doesn't miss anything, and then he'll play it again. And so I start watching this with him, and we both were just dying. And those kinds of moments are really hard to come by for me right now. And so to have that, I was just like, this is really special. Like this, I can physically feel the difference before going to bed after having that really nice, deep belly laughter. So
yeah. Nice. I like that a lot.
mine.
I'm a
I'll
big
send you
fan
that
of
video.
laughter. Yeah, please do. I hope I think it's funny. Wouldn't that be awful? I was like, I didn't laugh at all.
You're like, that's dumb, Aaron. Whatever.
Is this your sense of humor? Oh boy. No, please do. Please do. Because I like to laugh and I like bourbon. So yeah.
Look, we both just laughed at the pink bits joke. So I'm pretty sure our sense of humor is like, it can jive.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So for me, actually, it was today, like right now, actually. So we have had just yucky weather. Like it's been for here, it's been really cold, like lows in like 33, 34, which is cold for here, and highs like 42, 44, and just a bunch of rain for several days. And this morning, the sun just like boom, exploded out, and it's going to be warmer today, like 58, 60. And so for me, just sitting in my office here working like all morning and just the sun coming in, oh man, I have just missed sunny days over the last week or so. And so it's been really, that's just like, yeah, some days, sunny days just hit you, and it's hitting me today, and my mood is better. I'm just like, yeah, I just feel better. I feel happier. And yeah, it's been overdue. So
I love it. I love that you can appreciate just something so ordinary like sunshine, never take it for granted.
Nope. Yep. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for enduring that conversation about celebrity hacks.
So that kind of like works both ways, right? It's like how they hack their diets, and also they're just hacks. Yeah, it's like a double meaning. Yeah,
exactly.
I just now got that.
So as always, you can reach us at middleish@gmail.com. You can now follow us on Instagram at middleish_podcast. And we would love your support, your sharing, your questions. And thank you for listening.